So at the beginning of 2025, I made 3 marketing predictions for the hearing care industry. In this episode, we're going to review those predictions. Was I right? Was I wrong? Was I close? Was I far away? And I'm also going to share 3 predictions that I believe are on the horizon for 2026. Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the podcast for private practice hearing care leaders that want to grow iconic local status and grow reputation, recognition, and revenue in their communities. Welcome along. And this should be an interesting one. So let's go. I'll share my screen now and you'll see a bit of this. But beginning of the year, I played out that Nostradamus was a bit of a character. He made a lot of predictions, whether that's Napoleon, Hitler's reign of terror, and even the global pandemic based on his followers. So I made the prediction on, well, can I just predict the next 12 months of marketing in hearing healthcare? And I made 3 big predictions. And I want to take you through them. So this was the first one that I predicted. I predicted that Apple will seriously turn up the heat. And this was the back of Apple in their iOS 18.2 update, releasing hearing health features, hearing aid features, an over-the-counter hearing aid built into their AirPod Pro 2. So it's essentially technology, the firmware and the hardware that was launched in 2022, and they launched software that then enabled features in their existing hardware. So with the rumors stating that Apple were planning to launch the AirPod Pro 3s in early 2025, I had a big belief that Apple was going to turn up that heat and turn it up loud, because I suppose fundamentally, when Apple did that, we seen more traffic for the term hearing aid in 72 days than we'd seen in 72 hours than we'd seen in the previous 72 days. It went really crazy. And even if you look now at the traffic trends, there's been more traffic since Apple entered the industry than we've ever seen before. Apple launched a commercial. They put it on mainstream television. They put it on YouTube. It had 51 million views in a few weeks. Like, the hearing health conversation got thrown up in the air. And when the most influential cool tech brand in the world starts telling people they should care about their hearing, many people pay attention, and it goes a long way to addressing and challenging that very outdated stigma that exists. But here's the puzzle with Apple. Apple are an aggressive company when it comes to advertising and R&D and spend, etc. They're one of the biggest tech brands, or if not the biggest tech brand in the world. And as a result, it was going to be clear, like when they launch the AirPod Pro 3s, what's going to happen is they'll finally have hardware built to complement the software, which means the challenge that existed with the AirPod Pro 2, like battery life being a big one, like the comfort in ear, etc., that was going to be addressed in the new launch. And as they launch something new, what have they got then? They've got a new product to sell, which means they'll get very aggressive about the advertising around it. So with the rumors that Q1 was going to be the time that Apple launched their AirPod Pro 3s, my prediction was Apple are going to get really aggressive this year. They're going to launch this new technology. It's going to deal with many of the challenges that the AirPod Pro 2 had from a hearing health related aspect, and they'll get really aggressive from an advertising perspective. So what happened? Well, they didn't launch in Q1. There was a lot that happened, right? Trump came in, tariffs got put on, and Apple had a hard time, right? Because all Apple's technology was made in China. Who got the big brunt of those tariffs? Apple moved production. So a lot got delayed, and we've seen a lot of that, right? Apple didn't really release anything for the large part of 2025, but then finally in September at their big annual conference, they made their first number of big announcements and new launches, from the new iPhones through to, I think, new iPads, and then the AirPod Pro 3s was finally part of that announcement. Now, with that announcement in September, they introduced a number of big, like 5 big things that was part of that press release. Double the performance from noise cancellation was a big one. There was a few others in there, but number 5 on that list and number 3 on that list was related to the challenges that really existed prior for the hearing health related features. So number 3 was comfort. You now get multiple tips. They did a test over hundreds of thousands of users about comfort, and they've made some adjustments. And then number 5 was extra involvement of those hearing health features. So twice the battery life for when people are using them as hearing aids, better noise cancellation, which has boosted their speech in noise, etc. So they've lent into that quite heavily. But right now, end of the year, it's early. Like, they've launched them, they've sold a bunch, but they've not really advertised it too aggressively. So as we approach the end of 2025, has that prediction come true? Have Apple turned up the heat? No. Does it mean they won't? No. And that will come into one of my 2026 predictions in a moment, because I still believe the outcome is going to happen. I just think the timeline has shifted. The second big prediction was ChatGPT will take a large chunk of market share from Google. So when ChatGPT launched at the end of October 2024, it went pretty crazy. Google's market share dropped below 90% for the first time in 10 years. And we've seen this evolvement where more and more people are now using AI in order to make search. So with ChatGPT leading that, Google having no real answer to them, I had a prediction that there was going to be a big drop. I believe that Google's market share was going to be closer to 70% by the end of 2025. So what has happened? Well, a few things. Firstly, what have Google done? Have they lent further into their traditional search product? No. They've evolved, and AI search has become key. They launched out AI overviews that now show up in 57.1% of all searches, reducing clicks by 34.5%. And they've launched Google AI mode, which means now if you go to Google, you'll see at the top, use AI mode as one of the prominent options, where you can have almost a back and forth conversation where it's not giving you 10 blue links to click, but it's giving you a conversation, recommendations over clicks, essentially. Now, what's interesting, they've just rolled this out default across every Chrome browser. Now there's 3.5 billion users of Chrome. So it's a pretty drastic rollout. And it's meant that Google have now started to lean into this AI features similar to what ChatGPT did. So what does it mean for the actual prediction? Because the actual prediction was we'll see closer to 70% of market share going to Google. The answer is we don't know. There's been no solid here's our market share for this year. Typically, it's the end of the year when we start to see this. I've seen a number of things. So Bernstein, which are a global brokerage and research firm, they put a statement out not too long ago saying they predict Google search market share is closer to 65 to 70% rather than the 90% we often hear. But it's unknown right now. The question is, if you line up 100 people in the room and say, what's your prominent way to use the internet right now? I believe last year, they would have told you Google. I think now it wouldn't be the same answer. I think would you get more than 10 people in that room who say I use the likes of ChatGPT? I don't believe you would. I think for the average room of a mix of ages, I think it'd be closer personally to 70-30, 60-40. The larger part probably still being with Google. But that is a shift that is occurring. And who's going to win this big AI race? Is it going to be Google? Is it going to be ChatGPT? I don't know. I change my opinion based on what I read often. It's probably going to be Google. I think they're probably going to dominate, but with a product that probably looks more like ChatGPT in the future, which is going to be interesting. And then my third big prediction, 2025 will be a record year for hearing aid upgrades. And this was very clear, right? So if we look at 2025, it had a bit of had a little bit of a sting in its tail because it was the 4-year anniversary of 2021. Now, 2021 was the year that many practices had a really good year, and it's due to the pent-up demand that happened during 2020. People still had hearing challenges. People realized it more than ever because everybody's wearing face masks like this, and people start to realize that when you can't read lips, it becomes a little more challenging to understand and hear people, and it resulted in 2021 being a year where many people stepped into hearing technology. 2025 was that 4-year milestone, and what we had was more people jump towards naturally stepping into new technology. It was the time where they needed to upgrade into something new. And as a result of that, we've seen that statistically. So if I pull the stats here, what do I see? Based on MVP, My Vital Pro, they track over 1,000 practices data. They've seen existing patient opportunities up 7.7% in 2025 compared to 2024, and existing patient units up 12.9% over 2024. So for upgrades, it's been a very, very positive time. So they were the 3 predictions that I made. So just to back up, I predicted that Apple will turn up the heat. I predicted that ChatGPT will take market share away from Google more than most people predict. And I predicted that upgrades will be big in 2025 and relied on by many practices. If I've got to score these myself and be really brutal, have Apple turned up the heat? I don't think so. I don't think the timing's played to them. I think the delay in getting a product out has resulted in that. I still think they're going to turn up the heat. I just think the timeline is wrong. So I'm going to score that a 2 out of 10. Have ChatGPT taken a market share from Google? I think this is fundamentally still very, very true. Now, have they took 30% of market share, 30% of the market now using ChatGPT? No. Is a large part of the market now using the internet in different ways than it previously did? Yes. So although it's not perfect, I'm going to give it a solid 7. And then will 2025 be a record year for hearing aid upgrades? All the data proves that is exactly being the case. So I'm going to score that a solid 9. So yeah, I think out the 3 of them, I'm still pretty happy with those predictions, which takes us to 2026. What are the predictions that I have right now for 2026? And there's 3 fundamentally that I have that I'm going to record now, put my name to, and then we'll review again as we start to approach 2027. Here's the first one, and it may come as no surprise, is AI-powered discovery is going to become the new SEO. Now, we're seeing that this year so much, right? How Google have evolved their platform, how there's many AI companies that are now rocking up from a search perspective. But if we really zoom in on Google, like what's happened over the past 10 to 12 months has been crazy. Like AI overviews now mean that less people click when they make a search. They get the answer clearly. It's answered through this synthesized AI written answer pulled by multiple sources on the web. And then we're seeing AI mode get rolled out so aggressively. Like Google are pushing this into more and more places. So even in the AI overview right now that you read at the top, if you want more information, it doesn't send you to websites. It sends you to the AI mode. AI mode is being pushed into browsers. AI mode is at some point going to become the default way that people use the internet. And I'm sure Google right now have the puzzle of how and when do we do this? And then how do we protect the advertising part of our business that is a significant revenue driver? And what do we sacrifice? Do we sacrifice the user or do we sacrifice advertising? And if we sacrifice the user, then we automatically sacrifice advertising. But I think this is a big shift because AI optimized search and etc. right now has been a little niche. Most people are still doing things the traditional way, and the large part of the market is still traditional Google search, although it's changing. I think 2026 is the year where it's going to go from this new thing to this normal thing. There's going to be a big shift. Now, if I need to put a number on this, it's a challenging one, right? Because it's such a fluid, strange thing. But if I really need to put my line in the sand here and put a simple statement to it, it will be that AI search will be the number one way that people use the internet by the end of 2026. I think that's a big one. It's a bold one, but I think it's going to go a long, long way to being there. But it does mean a few things. It means SEO, like the traditional SEO, is questionably still relevant. Now, there's a lot of crossover between traditional SEO and what's relevant for AI search, but there's also a lot of difference as well. So that'll be a key one that I'd be putting a lot of effort into. And the challenging thing I find about making statements like this is the people that try to debunk that AI search is having any form of impact are nearly always somebody in the SEO industry, which makes a lot of sense, right? I've seen it recently, like people pulling stats to say, no, Google's still the dominant player, ChatGPT is having no impact in the market. And it's always somebody who has something to protect. It's somebody who's naturally conflicted. Because if you're an SEO company that's built a business on traditional SEO, hired a team on traditional SEO, then right now, what's the thing that you want your customers to understand? It's that traditional SEO is still important. That's obviously in the interest of the business. And as a result of it, I'm seeing people not actually look at solid data, but look at certain versions of data that backs up their point. And there was a prime one recently where there was a stat shared of how referral traffic is different on Google to ChatGPT, and Google's up here and ChatGPT's down here. Now, what is referral traffic? It's how many people click to a website from using that as a browser. Now, of course, Google's going to absolutely dominate that because that's what Google is. You search for something, you click a website to go to something. Referral traffic is going to be rife, as it always has been. What is ChatGPT? The large majority of searchers are never clicking from ChatGPT to a website. They're using ChatGPT for research. They're using it as the resource. The aim of it isn't to find websites for people. It's to make recommendations, educate them, and then help them to navigate options. Very different. So no wonder referral traffic's different. But that stat was touted around that Google's up here, ChatGPT's down here. And then in very small print, this is referral traffic. Like, it's anybody who's got something to protect will naturally protect it, right? But if we really look at the data and just use your own search habits right now, the way you use the internet, the way the people you know use the internet, has it changed? I believe fundamentally for everyone it has. And I knew this recently when my mum reached out to ask me about what ChatGPT is, which is interesting. Like the most untechnical person in the world, which is interesting. Second big prediction. I think we're going to see a big rise of personal brands in hearing care. Because right now, if I ask you who are the personal brands, who are the people that you know, who you could say is like position themselves as an expert, specialist, there's not that many. I can probably name like 10 in the industry. I think 2026 is going to be a year where people need to double down on it, and we'll see it. We'll have more and more people who start to become well known, who we don't currently know or we know little of right now. And I think YouTube's going to be the platform. I think YouTube is the next big gold rush for hearing care clinics for a number of reasons. The fact that, take an AI world, for example, right now, what does everyone seek? It's going to be connection. And where is a platform where you can see a human, you can listen to a human, you can get info from a human? It's YouTube. YouTube is a Google product. It's within Google's interests in order to maximize that. And it's a revenue producer right now for advertising. And with Google potentially losing or being in a compromised position of how they protect their ad revenue, YouTube is a very predictable, safe way where they've got Google Plus and then huge Google advertising naturally. And of course, you upload something to YouTube, it lasts on there for a long time. It was interesting to see Mr. Beast, biggest YouTuber on the planet. Big video went viral recently that he posted 10 years ago. Long story on that, but it's a big opportunity. And I think personal branding is so key. I've spoke about that many times on the reason for it. I think this is going to be the year that we see a lot of people pop up, and people that we don't quite know in the industry right now will start to grow personal brands, be well respected, trusted, liked, etc. for the expertise that they bring. So if I've got to once again draw a line on that, if I've got to put a real number on it, I'd keep it a little fluffy, and I'd say YouTube will be one of the biggest opportunities for hearing care leaders in 2026. And then my third and final prediction for 2026, and it goes back to what I predicted for 2025, and it's just a timeline issue. Apple will turn up the heat. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. So right now, Apple have launched their AirPod Pro 3s. They've pushed them out as well as every other product that they have just launched. What Apple will do is they'll start with a mass market push. They'll push it out wider. They'll start to do advertisements on the new AirPod Pro 3s, and then they'll start to niche down. They will start advertising the hearing aid features to people in the category that may benefit from them. So we're going to see them get aggressive. They will put advertising campaigns together. They will spend a significant amount of money to advertise and grow awareness. And what happens when the big brands like Apple will throw a bunch of money behind the hearing health features is two things. Number one is it heightens awareness, which is really beneficial for us. If we have more people considering their hearing health, their hearing abilities, and whether they need help with their hearing, we are in a good position. The other challenge is it causes confusion. When Apple say you can get better hearing and it's $300, that creates a big gap between what Apple deliver and what you deliver. And you and I know there's a big difference between the two. But for the average consumer that is uneducated on that topic, that's an element of confusion. So that is going to be a gap that needs closing. But if I've got to zoom out right now and go 2026, what are the 3 predictions that I'll put my name to and the line in the sand? AI search is going to be the prominent way that people use the internet, number 1. Number 2 is YouTube is going to be a key platform, and there's going to be a rise of personal brands in hearing care. And then number 3, Apple will turn up the heat and they'll get aggressive around the hearing health features in their AirPod Pro 3s and launch it aggressively to people of a certain age, which will cause confusion and opportunity. But yeah, hope that's helpful. That's kind of where my head's at now going into 2026. And knowing this on the horizon, we're helping a lot of our inner circle members that we work with benefit from exactly this. So this year, the big focus for all of them is we've rebuilt every single person's website at a huge resource and huge expense to us in order to ensure they're AI focused and not just like we're enabled for an AI search, but like we are almost AI search. They're going to win those battles in every part of the country, in competitive markets, non-competitive markets. They're set up to absolutely win those battles, helping a good handful of them now really double down on YouTube. And then, of course, how do we become the local thought leader to ensure they set the narrative when Apple starts to launch products with decisions, with patience, with community? That is always part of the thought leadership, personal brand growing aspects. And of course, the content marketing that comes alongside it. So hopefully that's helpful. As always, I'd love to know your thoughts. Shoot a message to me. My phone number, my WhatsApp number is on our website, orange-grade.com. Shoot me an email, ollie@orange-grade.com. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below. I reply to every single comment, whether that's kind or whether it's not. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful. And I will speak to you again very, very soon.